Product disclaimer. The iTeraCare blower is not a medical device, and the manufacturer does not provide medical advice. Users understand that the device is not intended for medical or diagnostic purposes. Its use should not replace reliance on medical treatment or advice from a qualified healthcare provider. A true leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Welcome to Knowing Your Business series.
Good more earnings, everyone, or shall I say good more learnings. And welcome to another episode of the WeCare Academy. My name is Third, and tonight I'm going to discuss about quartz. All right, so before I begin my discussion, let me just have a disclaimer, or shall I say, I would give a heads up to all our participants, especially those non-Filipino speaking attendees, that there might be some segments in my discussion wherein I will be speaking in Tagalog or Filipino. So I would like to apologize because initially this program is designed for Filipino viewers, but there might be some portions wherein I will be speaking in our native language. But fret not, because some of our friends may be able to help you out in explaining what I was trying to say. But I'll try to speak in English as much as I can. All right. I will start my discussion with the scope of what my discussion is all about in order for us to be guided on what up to what extent I will only be discussing my presentation for tonight. First is that this presentation is focused on quartz alone and as an element, and we'll cover the scientific concepts of quartz as discussed in theories, studies, and experiments. So although there are some cultures around the world that believe in the positive effect of quartz crystal in our human body, I will not be presenting or discussing all about it because it doesn't have any scientific basis. So anything that I will be discussing today is about science. It is about research wherein there is a basis on that, all right? And also, in order for us to avoid preempting the future discussion about iTeraCare and the rest of our products, I will not be touching about iTeraCare at all. I'll be focusing on quartz crystal. All right, so for any questions or clarifications later on, I'll be focusing alone on quartz crystal and optical quartz. All right, I'll start it with the history of quartz in order for us to understand what this mineral is all about. I will share with you the history about quartz crystal, when it started, why it is called quartz, and how it is formed. Okay, anyone who is familiar with this word? Actually, quartz is a German word, but originally it is krustallios. It is a Greek word, which means icy cold, from another Greek word, which is kruos. Okay, because way back in the ancient Greece, they believed that quartz crystals were the original crystals. And in fact, the ancient Greeks assumed that quartz crystals were ice frozen. So they are too hard that it wouldn't melt. Let me just turn off the annotation because someone is trying to anyway. Someone is trying to write on the screen. Okay, this is the molecular structure of quartz. Quartz in science or in chemistry is called with this molecular symbol, which is silicon dioxide. All right, as you can see in this molecular structure, it is composed, one molecule of quartz is composed of one atom of silicon and two atoms of oxygen. And whenever they are being structured and put together, they create a covalent bond. In chemistry, covalent bond is the second strongest bonds among the chemicals. And it's the same as the chemical or molecular bond of water or glucose or even diamond. Therefore, we can say that silicon dioxide or quartz is one of the hardest elements or hardest minerals that we have on Earth. Quartz is one of the most abundant minerals and has been used as a gemstone for as long as mankind has remembered. And it occurs in many forms and colors, but it is colorless when pure, and which makes it allochromatic, which means it can inherently be pigmented whenever it is being attached to any other mineral or impurities. So it comes in different colors and it has different pigmentation, but by nature, it is actually colorless or white. Okay, so how does quartz form? Where, how did it start? When is it being formed in nature? There are actually two ways wherein it is formed. First is through igneous rock. So it is formed when magma cools like water turned into ice when frozen. So like this, as you can see, magma is from volcanoes and it's too hot. It is extremely hot. But when it's cooled down, it crystallizes into a quartz crystal. The same way as when our water is turned into ice, originally it doesn't look like crystal, but when it's frozen into 0 degrees Celsius, our water becomes ice and it looks like crystal. So it's the same thing as how quartz is formed in nature. The second way that it is formed is through silica in water. So whenever water is rich in silica, it forms similar way as this one. Silicon dioxide dissolves in water like sugar in tea or like in salt in water, but only at very high temperature and pressure. Then when the temperature or pressure drops, the solution becomes saturated, so quartz crystals form. So the same thing as when we're doing experiment in chemistry. Whenever we put a lot of salt in water and then apply high temperature on it, the extra salt is dissolved. But when we try to cool it down and in fact try to freeze it, doon na, lumalabas na ang crystallization. It's the same thing as how quartz is formed in nature. So either way, through igneous rocks, via the magma when it's cooled down, or by silica-rich water, then quartz is being formed through crystallization. And that is why quartz is actually abundant in any part of the world. Now we'll talk about properties of quartz crystal. First, quartz is extremely resistant to heat and chemical changes. Physical changes include weathering and erosion. In fact, the strain point of quartz crystal is 1,120 degrees Celsius. So at this point only, it can be used for structural applications without undergoing creep. So imagine it's more than 10 times or it's almost 11 times the temperature of a boiling water, tsaka lang siya magbe-break. Tsaka lang siya magi-give up. So it can withstand very high temperature. It also doesn't weather and erode easily. That is why with very high temperature or strain point, tsaka pa lang siya masisira or mababasag. Okay? Second, it is abundant and can be found in almost all countries because again, it is formed through magma and even silica-rich water, then crystallization can easily happen. So as long as that area has volcanoes or has silica-rich stream or river, then quartz can be abundant in that area. So it's found and it is abundant in almost all countries around the world, yet it is one of the most highly sought after minerals on planet. That is why it doesn't come cheap. Third, it is hard and durable. In the Mohs scale from 1 to 10, it is rated as 7. Therefore, it's like 70% hard. And when we say it is hard, because diba kanina I talked about the molecular structure, it's a covalent bond, therefore it doesn't break that easily. Therefore, the property of quartz itself means that it is relatively a hard stone. It is hard and durable, and it has a tensile strength of 4.8 times 10 to the 7 pascals or 7,000 pound per square inch. Imagine it would only break like around 5,000 kilometers deep. So if you're a scuba diver, if you try to go down the sea, it would only break, it can withstand around 5,000 kilometers deep. That kind of pressure, it's not as hard as diamond, okay? So imagine it's only 7 out of 10 when it comes to hardness. It doesn't break as easily as a glass or plastic, but it still breaks whenever you drop it on the floor or any hard object. The fourth property of quartz crystal is that it is reflective and prismatic. Since it is a crystal, it can reflect light and it can come with different colors. That is why way back in the early times in churches, instead of using fire to light up their churches, the priest put in quartz prisms in order to reflect the light coming from the sun, illuminating the entire church. So way back before, they have been using quartz to light up their room. The fifth property is that quartz crystal has the capacity to block UV and EMF waves. Since it has, again, the covalent bond and it is hard and durable, certain frequencies and wavelengths cannot penetrate through it. It has the ability to transmute and dissipate these negative waves or energies like the UV or EMF waves. Lastly, quartz crystal has this what we call piezoelectric property. Quartz crystal has the ability to generate an electric charge in response to applied mechanical stress. That is why in electronics, it is a very integral and important component used in radios, microphones, even in robotics, timers, alarm clocks, and buzzers. Because when we say about piezoelectric property, it is capable of, number one, increasing or how do you call that, amplifying the frequency of any device. And second, it makes the frequency constant. That is why it is used in electronic devices to amplify the frequencies, such as the microphone or radios. Therefore, with these 6 properties of quartz crystal, number 1 being able to resist extreme heat and physical and chemical changes, being abundant and found in all countries. It is hard and durable, being reflective and prismatic, the capacity to block harmful waves such as the UV and EMF, and its piezoelectric property. Quartz crystal is really an important and integral component in nature that we can use. With that, my presentation has already concluded.